So please join me in welcoming Father Loya.
You're done? He didn't finish the introduction. He started talking about this wonderful priest, and he switched to me. So I never knew who the wonderful priest was. Good to be here with you. I'm going to greet you in the tradition of my church. I'm a Byzantine Catholic priest, and I would say to you, when I greet you, I'd say, glory to Jesus Christ. He would say back to me, glory to Him forever. So glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to Him forever.
We have different greetings throughout the season. Like during Easter, we say Christ is risen, and you would say back to me, indeed He is risen. During this past Christmas season, which actually is still just about to finish, still going on, we say Christ is born, you say glorify Him. January 1st is the Feast of Circumcision for us. We say Christ is circumcised, and you say, ouch. But most of the time is glory to Jesus Christ. Glory to Him forever. It's our way of saying hello. If you don't know what a Byzantine Catholic priest is, I'm going to explain it to you, get that out of the way, take it through 2,000 years of history in about 2 minutes, using my poor man's PowerPoint presentation. So, I want you, though, to think of a little bit of grade school geography. You know what hemispheres are, right? Northern hemisphere, south, east, west. Okay. Name a country in the eastern hemisphere. Real quick. Easy.
Ukraine.
Very good. Another one? One more.
India.
Okay. Third. One more. Turkey. Okay. Excellent. Eastern hemisphere. Okay. Now western hemisphere. Real easy.
West.
Okay. Very good. Now, would it surprise you if there's different culture, different foods, different languages in Turkey or Croatia, Ukraine as there is in America? Would that surprise you? No, you'd expect that, right? Because civilization basically developed along two worldviews, two approaches, fundamentally. You can reduce history down to two things, like two halves. One is east, one is west. We're hearing a lot about that today, a lot of clashing of that today. You hear about the Middle East, the East this, and Afghanistan. It's always about something horrible in the East, you know. We're always clashing with the West. Not supposed to be that way, but it is. Anyway, it's because they both developed along two fundamental worldviews, which were not supposed to clash, they're supposed to be complementary. Well, when the church developed, spread through the world, the same thing happened. If it went to an Eastern culture, it took on the character the Eastern culture was in. If it went west, it took on the character of the Western culture. So, can you ever see this? First slide of my PowerPoint.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a map, right? So I got a line right through the map, right through Italy, right through Rome. Everything east of that is what we call the Eastern churches. Everything west is the Western churches. So to make it even more simple, see this slide here. The blue, that's the Western. The orange is the East. St. John Paul II called this the two lungs of the church. Notice they're together. It's kind of like marriage, man and woman, right? But yet they're one. They're different, yet they're one. They're together. Okay, this is how the church started out. East and west, but one church. Now, however, the history of the church, unfortunately, is a history of breakups. So, fractures started to happen in the church. The first one in the East in the 4th century. But the important one for you and me tonight is this one. Happened in 1054 AD. There was a big divorce. This was a happy marriage, relatively happy marriage for 1,000 years. Then they got divorced. The blue, that's the West, called itself the Roman Catholic Church. The orange part called itself the Eastern Orthodox Churches. How many of you are Roman Catholic? Well, more specifically, Latin. Right. That's because your spiritual heritage comes from this part, this lump. However, this is the other lump, the East, Eastern Orthodox. Okay, we fast forward 500 years. Notice something about the blue. There's a piece of the orange back with the blue. You see that? Okay, so part of the East returned to the West. Okay, right there, that's what I am. These are called the Eastern Catholic churches. Those parts of the Orthodox Church that went back, like it was in the beginning, in union with Rome. So between here and here, this is what's called Catholic. 21 different ways to be Catholic. There's 21 different ways. Most of them are in the East. I'm Byzantine, you're Latin. As far as I know, most of you are Latin, or all of you are Latin. I'm Byzantine. There's a couple other Byzantines here. That's 2. Got 19 more to go. All right, finish up our history. Right about the same time, there was a big break in the West. What was that? Protestant Reformation, right? And finally, to bring things up to date, we have breaks in the Protestant churches too. So this is what the mystical body of Christ looks like today. Isn't that horrible? What a scandal. All busted up in pieces. Not supposed to be that way. But here's the Catholic part, right here. Missing all these parts between here and here. 21 different ways to be Catholic. That's the church. Hopefully, one day, we'll get them all back together like they're supposed to be, like a happy marriage. They got a lot of work to do in that. But that's why it's good that you and I are here together, because the more we understand about each other, the more chance we have of bringing unity back into the church. Who's your Pope? Who's your Pope?
Francis.
You kind of hesitated there. Who's my Pope?
Francis.
Very good. See, I'm Catholic, you're Catholic. How many of you are of Irish, German, Italian descent? All right. That means that your ancestors came from Germany or Italy or Ireland, right? And they were Catholic, right? So they came, like, for instance, to Chicago. And what did they do? They developed their ethnic neighborhoods, right? With their churches. There was the German church, the Irish church, the Italian church, right? Okay. My family, my relatives, did not come from Ireland, Germany, or Italy. They came from countries like Slovakia, Ukraine, and Hungary, Central Europe. And that area was evangelized by Byzantine Catholics, Byzantine missionaries. Byzantine was from what is today modern-day Turkey. Became eventually Constantinople and now Istanbul. So when my grandmother came here, she didn't come from Ireland and Italy. She came from Hungary and Slovakia, where the Byzantine rite was practiced there. So I grew up a Byzantine Catholic. How many grew up Roman Catholic? Okay, it's because your ancestors were, right? You were born into it. Same thing with me. All right? Okay, easy enough to understand? All right, 2,000 years of history in 2 minutes. It's kind of neat being a Byzantine. My teenagers say, hey, probably get to wear the bling. One day I was giving a talk. It was around Halloween. I was walking back. I was outside. I was walking back to my hotel room. And there was a boy walking behind me with his mother. And I heard the boy say to his mother, look, Mommy, that man's dressed like a witch. So I'm not a witch, boy. I'm the phantom of the altar. However, whether Byzantine or Roman, we're all Catholic. And Catholic is about, it's about a way of seeing. We do not belong to a religion. Get that out of your heads right away. You know what learning is, gentlemen? Learning is about unlearning. Because most of our life, we have piles and piles of lies and nonsense that become normative. The first lie is that we're part of a religion. The second lie is that the church is about teachings. The third lie is about rules. It's about none of those things. It's about a way of seeing. That's it. It's about a way of seeing the invisible, incomprehensible, indescribable, ineffable God who becomes visible, tangible, through the physical. And we can touch that invisible God through the physical order creation that He created. Our faith is about seeing the invisible God made visible through the physical. This is what we just came through. We're almost ending it now. The season of nativity, the incarnation. What was that about? A baby in a manger? That's a little piece of it. It's a nice piece of it. Got to start somewhere. You know what it's really about? The Creator. The uncontainable Creator lowers Himself, debases Himself, He empties Himself, insults Himself to become the creature while still remaining the Creator. He infuses himself into his very creation, submits himself to his own laws. And so now all the creation is filled with the presence of God. And what our faith does, notice they didn't call it a religion. Don't ever call the Catholic Church religion in my presence. I'll get very angry. It banalizes what we are. A religion. My religion, your religion, mine's better than yours. It's all the same. No, it's not. There's only one. One way to see the invisible God made visible. And we do that through everything. Most especially through the human person. We see how we make present on earth the invisible God. We make him tangibly present through our very bodies, as he is present in every other aspect of the physical order of creation. Everything in the created order has a theology to it. It speaks a language. It tells us about itself. It gives us the why behind it. Why are we men? I mean, the real why. Because unless you know the why, you don't know the how. Let me tell you, the world, it should be obvious, doesn't have a clue. Not a clue as to why we're man and woman. And so, we have no idea how to be man and woman. So let's trash it and be something else. We'll call ourselves this or that gender, this or that. No idea. Zero, zilch. Because the world is not Catholic. It doesn't know how to see. Big sleeves, nothing up my sleeve. Watch the magic marker. What's that? What's that? What's that?
Mickey Mouse.
What's that? Am I boring you? All right. Circles, right? You agree? Can you see it? Can you? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. All right. Let's put the circles together and see what we start to come up with. What's this look like, gentlemen?
A person.
A what?
A person.
A person. What kind of person? Very good. I didn't even finish this drawing. You already know it's a woman. How did you know that, gentlemen?
Circles.
Very good. The first two circles. Very good. You're a Catholic. This guy's really Catholic. He knows how to see. All right. Now, notice what I did. I started from point A, and where did I go? Back to point A, didn't I? And I kept repeating it. And when you put it all together, you see that the general motif of femininity, the female body, is one of what we call concentricities. Concentric lines and circles. What does that mean? What does that say? What does something that's round or concentric say? Very good. Encompassing, yeah. What else? Think along those lines. What else? Quickly. Should be easy. Inclusive. Inclusive, very good. Connected, integrated, we go on all day long. If that is what her body says, it must also be how her mind works and her heart works and what she's called to be on earth. In fact, what's happening is, in the very lines, physiology, the soul, the heart, the mind, the total package of womanhood is made present on earth. The relationality, the encompassing, the tenderness, of God. We're made in the image and likeness of God, aren't we? What does that mean? It means we have to reveal God. All right? Watch the marker again. Are you watching? Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to start here. I'm going to go here. Did you see that? I'm going to start here. I'm going to go here. Did you see that? All right, I'm going to connect them. What do I make?
Triangle.
All right. Triangles. Let's try throwing around some triangles. And let's see now what we come up with. What do you start to see, gentlemen? Yeah, you're thinking, man, I'm one workout away from that. Huh? Okay, right. Something quite different than the woman, right? Why? What did I do? I started from point A and I did not return. I went outward. I kept going outward. And all these lines move outward. The theology, the language of the male body does not say this. It says this. It moves outward. It points to that which is beyond itself. It acts upon the environment. Where are defining parts of our body, gentlemen? Inside, like the woman's, or outside? And what do? They move out from ourselves, don't they? And they do something, don't they? What do? They plant a seed, right? Right? Gentlemen? You are guys, right? Okay. Some of you are married, right? Okay. So you understand this, right? We move out. The whole way of understanding manhood stands in the very language of body, the lines of everything, which means our mind, heart, soul, is that we're designed to act upon things, to move out, to be concerned with what is external, what is out there and beyond. We make present then, not the immanence of God, that's for the woman. We make present on earth through our very beings as men. And only men can do this. We make present on earth God's transcendence, His out-there-ness, His otherness, His power, His might. We are designed to make present on earth through the very structure of our bodies, and therefore our minds and hearts and soul. They all work in sync. They all work together. We are called and made by God to make present on earth that aspect of God that is fatherhood, authority. He is the authority, the author, the one that puts things in motion, that plants the seed. He's the one that sets the order of things. And we as men are designed by God to point to that aspect of God, to make that aspect of God present on earth and stamped in the very language of our bodies. Which means that we as men are called to be as God is in this way. We are called to see the order of things and to protect that order of things. Who did God come to first when Adam and Eve fell? Who did He come to? Why? The woman ate the forbidden fruit first. How come He came to Adam?
Because Adam let it happen.
Adam let it happen. Why? What was he supposed to do? He was designed to protect womanhood and the order of creation. And he fell down on the job. As men, stamped the very language of our bodies, we are defined best by priesthood. This is reason 1 billion why men are priests and women cannot be. It's something to do with being unequal, chauvinistic. It has to do with God's order of creation, how He reveals Himself through us. What does priest mean? Manhood is defined by priesthood. Defined by it. And priesthood is defined by manhood. The two are inseparable. Tell me, what do you know about priesthood? How do we define it? What's the essence of it? What's the essence of what the priest does, what he's about? What word?
Sacrifice.
Very good. Sacrifice. The priest is the one who leads the community in offering back to God, in praise and thanksgiving, what God has done for us. And in the process, the priest offers himself as an oblation. Gentlemen, what posture does a man take on after intercourse? Some of you guys are married, right?
Falls asleep.
There you go. Falls asleep, yeah. Exactly. But you know what? It's not really sleep. You know what it is? It's called a petite mort. You know what that is? French for
Small death.
a little death. Because you know what happens, gentlemen? In the act of making love with your wife, you die. You spend yourself. And you die into her. And you know where that happened? It happened. It was done by somebody else who had the same body as us. Jesus Christ on the cross. He spends himself on the cross. His very bodily fluids come out of him. He had nothing left to give. And you know what he said? His last words were what? In the language of your church, Latin, what are they?
You just finished it.
In Latin. Consummatum est. It is consummated. Where do we use the word consummated, gentlemen? Marriage. This was a mystical marriage. The reconceiving on the cross, on the nuptial bed of the cross, between the new Adam and the new Eve. The reconceiving mystically of the human race. He spends himself. And in fact, in Byzantine iconography, the eyes of Christ on the cross, although dead, are partially opened. Because it's a life-giving sleep. A petite mort. A death that will give you life. And it comes through sacrifice. We are designed, gentlemen, to give ourselves away, to give our seed away, to bleed, to suffer, and to take every hit on behalf of someone. And that someone is the bride. That bride may be your wife. That bride may be the country. That bride may be the church, as it is for me, as a celibate. And we are called by God, and we respond to this. We respond to a call to mission. Remember Isaiah? God asked him, who will speak for me? He said, I will, I will. And the angel said to him, are you sure? Because you're going to talk, I'm not going to listen. Are you sure you're up to it? Oh yeah, I do, I go. But we are called and respond to a sense of mission. We become men by going up against things greater than ourselves. By taking the hits and offering ourselves, being priest men. We also, if you see what Christ did on the cross, we also see that in the very season we've come through, as I said at the beginning. That self-emptying of God. Here I am, God. I'm gonna just empty myself out onto you people. I'm going to give it all. I'm going to leave nothing in heaven, although I'm still in heaven. I'm going to leave it all of this earth for you. And I'm going to go more. I'm going to go into hell. I'm going to go as low as I can go for you. In exchange for your sin, in exchange for your insolence, I will lower myself. And I will keep lowering myself until I can go no further into the bowels of hell. And I'll break the bonds of Satan, and I will raise you up and mount you on the very throne in heaven with me forever. That kind of sacrificial love is incomprehensible. But it's the one you and I have to imitate as men. We have the same body as Christ. The same body. How do we do it? A few quick points on how we do this. How do we become the Christ priest man? For our wife, for the family, for the country, for the church. First of all, we have to be self-possessed. We cannot give what we don't have. So we have to do what you're doing in this organization, this effort. You have to take stock of yourself and see where I need strengthening and perfecting, and how I need to get that. You get it through the sacraments of the church. You get it through fraternity, by like-minded men. The first thing is self-possession. The second thing is humility. We men need to know that we need each other to do this. And that we are broken and we need these sacraments. We need the prayer. We need this kind of organization. We need, men draw masculinity from other men. That's why we do this male bonding thing. Women don't understand that. They draw energy another way. Ours is by going into our man cave temporarily, solitude, but it's also in bonding because we draw energy from each other. Why? Because we function externally. And what's outside of us gives us energy. So we have to be humble to know that we need this kind of fraternity. That's one of the things we advise men who are addicted to porn or alcohol. Or they tell you, have a buddy, have a guy you can call when you feel tempted. Go to group therapy. Alcoholics Anonymous. The third thing is we have to realize that as men, we become men by going into battle. We have to go up against something. It's like resistance exercise. You build your muscles. You got to go up against something that's too heavy for you. You got to work up to it and finally get stronger. So you get stronger and stronger. You have to battle against something. Resistance is how we actually grow in our strength as men. And the first thing that we go against is our own fallen sexuality. That's why there's such a problem with porn and lust today. Because the devil knows the theology of the body. He knows right where to go. He understands us perfectly. We don't understand ourselves. We don't have a clue. But he does, so he went right where he had to go. He went to that place where we battle. Because our sexuality is bigger than we are. You all know that. How frustrated we are when we try to be pure, right? Gee, it just seems impossible, doesn't it, guys? You try and do it so good, damn it, you fail again. How the hell do we do this? That's the first thing we battle against. It's within ourselves. But in battling that, and staying with the battle, with the graces, and the fraternity, we grow stronger. Guaranteed. The next thing, and this basically is the overarching thing. We must be men of prayer. Men of worship. In the Jewish temple, you might remember, there were zones in the Jewish temple, the Old Testament. Remember that? You read that in Ezekiel, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and so on. It describes the temple, how they worship. And they had different zones. And down here were the women. Women couldn't go up here. It's like where what we call the altar. It's a tabernacle, the Holy of Holies. Only the men could get close to it. And only the male high priest could enter the Holy of Holies once a year. You know why? Why do you think that was? Why do you think it was? Why did women have to stay back here and the men could go further up? Why was that? Because it was a chauvinistic society, right? Just like the Catholic Church, they won't ordain women, right? Is that it? No. Flip it around, gentlemen. The real reason was to approach the living God could destroy somebody. And so, the women stayed back. It's like, stay back, honey. This is dangerous. I'll take the hit. I'll go talk to God. I get killed, you know. I'm going anyway. I'm going in. Okay, God, here's how it is. That's really what it was. It's to face the living God took courage, and it was risky. And that is still the same thing today. And that's why in the Christian church, Catholic Church, guess what they did? They picked up the same idea. Only now they turned it into a vestibule, narthex, nave, sanctuary, altar, closed off by communion rail. Today we have in our churches what's called an icon screen. And only the men went here. In fact, in a lot of the churches, through history, they would have men and women on either side. They wouldn't even sit together. The same idea. This transcendent, awesome God, to approach that God was a risky business. And so what our families have to see, especially our children, have to see is that God, especially like a little child, when a little child sees Dad, the invincible Dad, bow before something greater than himself in prayer, to kneel and bow in prayer, to approach the Eucharist with ultimate reverence, you have no idea what that does for the faith of that child. Because what do they see? What do they see? You know, a little kid thinks Dad can lick anything, right? And he sees Dad in a weakened state, acknowledging something much greater than him that he is relying on. What is that? What could that possibly be? The God. And so in your homes, it is your place to lead the family in prayer and in church. Leadership in the church is the calling of manhood, not womanhood. They have their place, but it is not in leadership. Not in the way that is designed by God. There's a different kind of leadership they have, not the same way. What you're called to do is to establish what's called the domestic church. To make your homes a place of prayer, to establish the order of things. You do things like this. If you have children, some of you don't have children at home, whatever, some of you are older, whatever, but if you have children at home, or you've got the grandchildren over, at a mealtime, I know it's even hard to get family to do one meal today. Good golly. One meal. You sit there and you say, we're going to be quiet for a few minutes. And it designates someone to read from the scripture or a spiritual book. Then there's guided discussion. The discussion goes like this. So, Susie, how did you experience God today at school? That will be your conversation. Then after you've done that, you can go back to silly conversation. But each time increase it. So the supper, the one meal you have together, becomes more and more like the Eucharistic banquet at church. You have a place where the family gathers for prayer each day. You have 30 seconds, 10 seconds. You have a God connectedness with that family that you lead them to in your household every day. You are called for headship, to lead. We're like the rudder of the boat. Do you know that the psychosexual development, determination of how a child will turn out sexually, their psychosexually, in other words, their integration, their health sexually, do you know that it's ultimately determined by the father? Why do you think we have so much confusion today? Because the thing that has happened, that is the problem today, the problem, is the breakdown of fatherhood. Father wound is the biggest challenge men have today. Because you see, gentlemen, we need a message in order to become a man. An authentic man. That message is the same message that Jesus Christ got before he began his mission. From his Father in heaven, his baptism. His voice boomed out from heaven. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. The one message that we desire as men, boys, has to come from our fathers. Proud of you, son. Got what it takes. Good job. Come on. You can walk with the men now. Every man is programmed to hear that, to yearn to hear that message. Most men do not. And so most men suffer in some form of father wound. And as the father is wounded, so is the family, so is the culture, so is the church. Put fatherhood back together, you'll put the church and the world back together. Guarantee you, that's the secret. You are the architects of your household. And if you live alone, make it a domestic church. But especially if you have family, or have grandkids. You architect. You, as God was the designer, you're the one that designs the structure of that household. The woman gives it a heart. You give it the structure, the order. This is how it is in this house. This is what we do. Because this is of God. We pray. We go to church. We live according to these morals. We sit together at this table in this way. And this is how this household exists. Period. Do you know how many fathers I know, Catholic fathers, guys that go to church, that let their teenage daughters live in their house with their boyfriends? Well, they don't have enough money to live anywhere else. We're going to put them on the street. Yeah, to save their soul. Do you realize that, guys? Do you know what people like that? I truly do. Good Catholic guys. Oh my God. Live in the house with a boyfriend. Under the same roof. What do you think happens? Hey, Father, can you baptize our kid? Going to get married? Oh, yeah, Father. What does Dad do? Gee, what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to establish the order of things. Without exception. Because that calling and responsibility of yours is stamped in your very male body. Because you manifest in your maleness the transcendence, the authority of God Almighty. Now, as we leave and end this, I'm asking you to leave here with one question. Now, I have also some sheets similar to that with some points on it for you. With discussion or just some of the points I mentioned today, you can have these sheets. I want you to go home today and think of one way, if it's a tiny way, of how you're going to bring your household, even if you're single, into more and more of a domestic church. How are you going to make it a household where prayer reigns, faithfulness to the church reigns, and there's an order? One little step. And make incremental goals. If you think it's a big thing, wow, the kids aren't going to buy that. What, Dad? Come on, I don't have time for that. Yeah, you get resistance. That's why you work it up in small goals. But you lay it out as how this household is going to be. Whether it's your children, your grandchildren, or if you're just single. Put manhood and fatherhood back together. See fatherhood and manhood in light of priesthood, in light of sacrificial love. But we spend ourselves, take every hit on behalf of, until we die doing so, as Christ did on the cross. You put that back together, and you'll put the church, family, and the nation and the world back together. Thanks for your attention.